95% of all fights end on the ground. False. As a martial artist and instructor, I've heard for years that 95% of all fights end on the ground. From all walks of life, students, the average Joe, who's just trying to look like he knows what he's talking about. Just recently, I was told again that this claim about fights going to the ground. Now, this claim was proven false almost 20 years ago, but every so often it rears its ugly head. So here it is. The first thing we need to know is where this claim really originated from. Well, it all started with the Gracie family.
The Gracie family is the most important family in the history of martial arts.
Back in the late 80s, the Gracie family were making their name in the martial arts community. At one point, Rorion Gracie says on tape,
"Many martial arts experts do not practice or teach their students how to defend themselves under realistic conditions because they just don't know how. They ignore the fact that 95% of all real fights go into a clinch and end up on the ground, especially if your opponent is bigger and stronger than you."
Where does Rorion get his information from, you ask? Well, the information comes from a 1988 study from the LAPD. Unfortunately, the actual study has been lost, which raises a lot of questions in itself. But thankfully, Chris Leblanc wrote a paper on the study in 2007. I'll link it in the description below so you can take a look at it for yourself. But I'll give you the short version here.
So here's the short version.
The study looks at police altercations, which begs the question of the term fight. I'm not sure you can qualify an altercation as a fight from police officers to civilians, but I'll go on. Of the 2,031 altercations that year in the LAPD, 95% accounted for one of 5 patterns. Here are the 5 patterns. The first pattern, the subject pulled away from the officer. 2, the subject attempts to punch or kick the officer. 3, the subject refuses to assume a search position. 4, the subject flees and the officer pursues after them. And 5, the subject takes a combative posture of some sort but does not strike at the officer. Now, of these 5 patterns, 62% went to the ground, where the officer eventually handcuffed the subject. So let's recap. 62% of 95% of altercations of police officers went to the ground. Now, I have met Rorion Gracie, and I believe he wouldn't lie about this. So I'm just going to assume that he got his percentages kind of mixed up. 62, 95, 95% of 2, I don't know. But again, I'll let you take a look at Chris Leblanc's paper in the description below so you can get a more in-depth look at it. But I would like to move on. The question I posed earlier is, what it actually constitutes a fight? Well, my belief as an instructor, martial artist, there are 3 vastly different types of situations that someone may think of as, a fight. First is a mutual fight where both parties have squared up, put up their dukes, and started a fight. Think of like MMA or boxing or kickboxing. The second is a self-defense encounter. One person is trying to assault another person who is not agreeing to the violence. So one person wants to fight, the other one is not interested. And then lastly, a police altercation where the police officer is trying to arrest someone, maybe handcuffing, that sort of thing.
Yeah. You want to try that?
This study only looks at police scenarios, not the other 2. So there it is. 95% of fights end up on the ground is officially proven a myth. Now, before all the reality-based self-defenders get excited about not having to go to the ground and fight and train there, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would like to thank BJJ and specifically the Gracie family for helping me come to two conclusions over the last 20 years. First, ground fighting is something that you need to be thinking about. Even with all the flaws of the previous study, 62% more or less ended up on the ground. That is substantial. If you are training for self-defense, you need to be training some sort of ground fighting. The second thing that BJJ taught me is that resistance training is imperative for self-defense training. But that's another video that you can look at my channel and find some more videos on that. I'm sure that many of you have lots to say on this subject, so let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, please hit the like button. And if you would like to see more videos of mine, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you watching. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.